Hey everyone, and welcome to CLPL's Adult Storytime, Storytime for Adults. I'm your host, Katie from Adult Services, and today is our third and final January Adult Storytime where we explore some genres that maybe you are hoping to get a little more into starting this year. And so for our third in this series, we are going to talk about mysteries and the different types of mysteries that exist out there. I wanted to look for some mysteries that I had never tried before. I had a narrow view of the mystery genre before starting work at the library, and there's a whole genre that probably a lot of mystery lovers know and love. Cozy mysteries. And now a cozy mystery is very low stakes, there's danger, obviously, because usually, if not always, somebody is murdered and the mystery needs to be solved. However, quite a bit of the mystery is also tied around the day-to-day life of the protagonist and perhaps an animal companion. Quite popular are mysteries involving cats and cat companions, or dog and dog companions. They certainly aren't the only animals, but they are the most popular. And today I wanted to read an excerpt from a cozy mystery I found on Hoopla that I read. And this is the first in a series by Elizabeth Spann Craig called Checked Out. And it's from her new series, The Village Library Mysteries. So I'll give you a little picture there so you can see what it looks like. As you can see, this mystery does involve a cat. And I picked it because it involves a cat. You may not realize, maybe you do, I'm a cat person. There is some evidence behind me, but the cats that I have are never in here when I film because they would probably knock the camera over and scream at the camera and who knows what else. Sit in the basket behind me, that's a popular one, climb up on the shelves. They're wonderful, but they're not like the cat in the book. They're not helping me solve any mysteries, I'll tell you that much. So I wanted to read you a short excerpt from this book and give you the sense of a cozy mystery. So here's a little bit more about the book. This is from the synopsis. There are no renewals when you're permanently checked out. When librarian Anne Beckett finally reluctantly agrees to being set up on a blind date by one of her overeager patrons, she figures that the worst that could happen would be that the two of them wouldn't hit it off. Little did she know that she'd be stood up because her date was murdered. So let's dig into a little bit more of what makes a cozy mystery, and that is, I think, really personified well at the start of chapter 1. We are going to follow Anne we're going to follow Anne through something that doesn't happen to her every day. Not just this blind date, but something that happens before. So here we go. Chapter 1, Checked Out. I just finished checking out some cookbooks for a young mom when the library doors flew open and 2 sopping wet boys rushed up to the circulation desk. I stood up immediately because of the state the boys were in. "What's wrong?" I asked. The older boy was so winded that he just gasped out something completely incoherent, so the younger one said, "There's a cat out there. He's in a culvert. He could drown." Another librarian said quickly, "You go. I'll cover the desk." Which, side note, that is such a librarian thing to do. We would totally do that at CLPL. I love it. And back in. I hurried out, jogging to keep up with the 2 boys as they shoved open the door and scrambled out into the pouring rain. It was coming down in sheets and had been for the last couple of hours. I was immediately soaked through and shivered, even though I could feel the humidity coming off the pavement in waves. "Where is it?" I asked urgently. Surely a cat wouldn't be able to hang on in a drainage ditch culvert for very long with the amount of water that must be gushing through it. There was a crack of thunder overhead and I winced. "Over here! When our mom dropped us off, we heard a cat crying," yelled the older boy, who seemed to be getting his breath back. The culvert was in a low-lying area on one side of the parking lot, and water was gushing down into it to drain off. The last thing I needed was for the boys to get swept in. "Oh, thanks, guys. What are your names?" They told me, and I thanked them again. "Now go inside. Go inside now and use the library phone to call your mom and tell her to come bring you some dry clothes." "No way," said the boys in chorus. The older one, who had a stubborn set to his chin, added, "We'll stand back, but we want to see what happens." I gingerly knelt down to peer into the concrete, open-ended culvert. Sure enough, caught on some brush inside the pipe was an orange cat. He stared at me with his intelligent green eyes and let out a pitiful cry. I leaned forward, now getting the knees of my black slacks soaked as I reached out for the cat. "Come here, sweetie," I crooned. The orange cat's eyes shifted to the right, and then he gave another cry, but didn't move toward me. "Come on, baby, you're safe. Just come with me." I crawled carefully ahead into the large culvert, feeling the water surge against me and keeping my hand on the side of the pipe. Then I stopped, squinting as I peered ahead. There was a second cat in there, slightly farther back, and still in the brush as the water continued flowing faster and faster. "Can one of you boys get some help from inside the library? There's another cat in here," I called out. "And get one of the librarians to bring a flashlight from the storage room." From what I could tell from inside the culvert, they both took off, sounding like a small herd of elephants as they sprinted toward the building. I kept crooning into the orange cat. "Is that why you won't come out? Your friend is in there? You're such a good friend, baby." The cat gave another sad cry, and I felt my heart pound in my chest. I shivered again and reached out to the cats. Neither one moved. I heard the kids running back outside again, and adult voices with them this time. I turned to see Wilson, the library director, hurrying toward me, clutching a flashlight and also, inexplicably, a rake, which he held aloft. He was always distinguished looking, with prematurely white hair, rimless glasses, and an omnipresent suit. A rather stylish elderly lady, an occasional patron of ours, trotted right behind him, holding an open umbrella and grasping another. "What's with the rake?" I asked. He said, "The kids said the cats were stuck on some brush. The custodian thought we could rake the brush forward." He handed me the rake. "Ah, good point. Although I'm a little worried the rake will scare them farther into the pipe. I'm going to have a hard enough time reaching them as it is." He pulled something out of his rain jacket and shoved it at me. "Here, also from the custodian." I propped the rake against my leg as I took a pair of leather work gloves from him. "Perfect. Remind me to kiss him," the patron said importantly, "and I'll try to keep you all dry." Far too late for that, but I appreciated her efforts. At least the boys, apparently not wanting to get even wetter than they were, huddled under the open umbrella with her. "Hurry," the older one implored me. Wilson and I peered into the culvert again, and the sad little orange face looked mournfully back at me. The cat turned his head to look at the other cat again, and then turned back to me, giving me a hopeless look. "Okay," I said briskly, faking the confidence I didn't feel. "Here's the plan. I'm going to try to get the cat that's farther back out first. I suspect the orange cat won't come out without her, but since they're so far back, I'll use the rake to pull the brush toward me a little first." "Slowly," clucked the patron, forgetting about the rain and stepping outside the spread of the umbrella before hurriedly ducking back underneath as she was pelted with drops. "Yes," I said under my breath. "Nothing to it, just another day in the life of a librarian in Whitby, North Carolina." I reached down and smiled what I hoped was a reassuring smile for the cats before feeling completely ridiculous. Would cats even recognize facial expressions? Instead I said, "Good babies, just hold on." The orange cat took me at my word and did indeed hold on, grimly. The other cat, still only partly visible, wailed in distress as I ever so slowly crept as far into the culvert as I could, and then even more slowly extended the rake to one side of the brush. Finally, after what seemed like hours, I was able to hook the rake behind the pile of leafy branches, pine straw, muck, and sticks, and gently pull the mass toward me. Then I did the same on the other side of the mass of brush, managing to get the whole mess a couple feet closer to me. Still, I needed to get closer, so I abandoned my crouch and went fully on my stomach. The patron clucked again. "Do be careful. That water is scary." "I could hold on to your feet," said Wilson reluctantly. He glanced down at his impeccable suit as if resigning himself to getting it immersed in the drain water. "I really don't need one of my librarians floating away in the storm drainage system." He pressed his lips shut. I'd worked for different directors, but never one quite as uptight as Wilson. I think I'll be okay, I said quickly, envisioning falling flat on my face in the process, especially since I wasn't the most coordinated of people at the best of times. At this point, it seemed good to calm down Wilson just as much as the poor cats. But if you could grab me if I start floating away, I don't think the pile of brush would stop my progress. He stooped down on the edge of the culvert, grimly poised to rush in and seize my legs if needed. And to make things worse, the rain came down even harder. I crept to the cats, crooning under my breath. I gave the orange cat a light, reassuring rub, and he purred at me, although he remained steadfastly on his branch. I turned my attention to the other cat, reaching out a tentative hand. The cat's eyes were huge, and I was worried she was hurt and might lash out in a panic. Gently, I took off a glove to tickle her under her fuzzy chin, and she half closed her eyes in relief. I replaced the glove and continued sliding forward through the gushing water. When I could scoot up enough, I put both my hands under her arms. She gave a loud cry that made me freeze and made the kids and patrons cry out too. "We have a hurt cat," I said. "Can one of you call a veterinarian?" "I will," said the lady, her voice anxious. I carefully cradled the cat in my arms and started the awkward process back, this time sitting completely down on the floor of the culvert and scooting forward inches at a time with the water almost to my chest. I turned to look at the orange cat, who was now looking much more relaxed and cheerful. He gave me a little chirping meow, and I couldn't help but smile. Whoever he was a charmer. When I made it out of the pipe, the boys and the lady cheered. Wilson simply looked very relieved at not having to file a disability claim. "The vet is on the way," the lady said. "Wilson, can I very gently hand this cat over to you and get the other one? She can go in the break room," I said. "I think her leg is injured, so I'll try to be careful." Wilson reached out his arms, and I slowly transferred her to him as the cat breathed heavily. The lady said, "Do you have any old towels or anything to make her comfy until the vet gets here? And to dry the poor thing off?" Wilson smiled through bared teeth as the tabby clawed his shoulder in alarm as he shifted her. "I'll see what I can find in the custodial closet." Wilson smiled. He set off to the library, and I edged my way into the culvert again. The orange cat was very alert and seemed to want to help me as the rain continued gushing into the pipe. "You can do it, baby," I whispered to him. As I held out my arms to him, he pounced into them and snuggled his wet, furry head against my neck. "Hey, sweetie," I crooned. Then I carefully crawled back out to more cheers. So I wanted to give you a taste of that. You're probably thinking, well, where's the mystery? But what I think is really unique and sweet about Cozy Mysteries is, again, they also focus on other sweet things happening. Quite a few of them have to do with food, you'll notice, and pastries, or animals as well. Knitting is another big Cozy Mystery hint. If you see knitting on the cover, you'll know that there might also be some knitting and recipes is the wrong word. You'll find recipes in the pastries and the food ones, but knitting, you'll find some patterns in those books, as well as the mystery and the description of the knitting or the pastries or the animals. And so that's really sweet, simple, low stakes, low stress way to get into some more mysteries. The mystery itself within this book is certainly, obviously, a major part of the story, but we also get many glimpses into Anne's life at the library, her co-workers, the cat that does end up maybe becoming a library kitty, and along with the mystery. And the mystery's almost secondary at that point, but it works out well if you're just in the mood for something easy and light and nothing that, to make your brain melt into a puddle. So again, that was an excerpt from Checked Out by Elizabeth Spann Craig. There are, I think, 2 books out in this series, the Village Library Mysteries, and Elizabeth Spann Craig also has some other mysteries out as well. You can find that on Hoopla if you're interested in reading more of her work. So very quickly, as you can see, I always have a pile of books ready. I wanted to show you some other mystery recommendations. Now here's a classic. I'd be very surprised if you hadn't heard of Agatha Christie, But if you haven't read Agatha Christie, you're always in for a treat. She's kind of the queen of the twist, the queen of, I certainly can almost never guess, who done it when I'm reading her books. They're very clever, and she is well known and loved in the genre for good reason. This was a fun one I read a while back called Three Bags Full. Now talk about, I would call this a cozy mystery. And what's fun is that it's from the perspective of the sheep. So the sheep in this story are trying to solve the mystery. Are they as accurate as a human detective? Oh, probably not. And their conclusions can be very humorous, very funny. This one is by Leonie Swann. Again, Three Bags Full, a sheep detective story. And that's more of a humorous, fun, cozy mystery as well. This series by Maureen Johnson, the Truly Devious series, is classified as YA. Again, I would never let that classification stop me from reading a book. Just because the protagonist is a teen and maybe it's marketed more towards teens does not mean it is not okay as an adult to read and love these types of books. So Truly Devious takes place at a boarding school, a very cool boarding school with lots of secrets and lots of hidden stories. And our protagonist, Stevie Bell, is her purpose for going to the school is to solve a decades-long mystery of a murder and a disappearance. So definitely recommend. There's 3 books in this series with a 4th coming early in this summer, this year. And here's another, this is an author I would highly recommend. He has 2 books. You may remember his first mystery, The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle, was very popular a few years back. Stuart Turton is his name. And this is his newest book, The Devil and the Dark Water. Very straightforward, kind of classic. I would say definitely influenced by Agatha Christie. Set on a boat. So one of those, kind of a closed room mystery, if you will. And very fun, very creative. I love his writing. His characters are great. I wonder and / hope that there might be a sequel because I love these characters so much. But we will see. And definitely recommend that. Fun, a little bit dark, not too scary. These are 2 I have not read myself, but come very highly recommended. This is A Mystery of 1920s Bombay, a series by Sujata Massey, and The Widows of Malabar Hill is the first book in the series, I believe. So that's really cool. She was born in England to parents from India and Germany, and raised mostly in America, St. Paul, Minnesota. She lives in Baltimore, Maryland. But she has, a different take on this genre as a woman of Indian descent. And this has to do with, it was inspired in part by the women who made history as India's first female attorney. So a little bit historical fiction and mystery all tied into one. I'm very excited to read that. And then what can I say? I cannot resist a cover with a cat, and I wanted to try some more cat-themed mystery books. And this is in the series by Rita Mae Brown. She also credits her cat, Sneaky Pie Brown, in this series, which I think is so cute. So Sneaky Pie is always featured on the cover, and he's always given an author's credit. I'm not sure how far we are in the series. This one I grabbed Formidable Foes, a Mrs. Murphy mystery. And there are quite a few of these spanning back many years. And she's still writing them today. So if you're interested, and on the back she features the real Sneaky Pie. He also gets a credit in the About the Authors section. Very cute. He also, he has also authored he has collaborated on these books, but also on a Sneaky Pie's cookbook for mystery lovers and Sneaky Pie for President. I don't know about you, but that sounds like a great book. I would vote for Sneaky Pie. But I love that she credits him. I love that he's a major part of, cats are a major part of the book. So, now I don't know if Sneaky Pie is in the book, but there are cats in the book. So he helped write it, so he had some influence into the cat voices, as you will. And I'm excited to try those too. Oh, there's so many great ones. If you ever need recommendations, our library workers and librarians are on standby on the website. There's a form you can fill out for recommendations, or you can call our helpline and ask there for readers advisory or recommendations. So thank you so much for joining me this month as I got to nerd out about some great genre books and introduce you to hopefully something that maybe will be one of your new favorites, or a genre that you are now excited to explore. That's our favorite thing. We just want to introduce you to your favorite book. So look forward to next month, which we are going to mix Black History Month and romance and feature Black romance authors in the month of February. So get excited for that. But in the meantime, I hope you stay safe and stay well and healthy. And hopefully we'll be seeing each other again soon. Thank you so much for coming. We'll see you next time. Bye.